The true story of natural healing begins in Africa. Nearly 5,000 years ago in ancient Kemet, a man named Imhotep practiced the art of diagnosis, fasting, and plant medicine. He is remembered as the world's first physician, the grandfather of medicine. His knowledge was so advanced that centuries later, the Greeks would study his works. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts, recorded over 700 herbal remedies, many still used today. In Ethiopia and Nubia, health was woven into spiritual life. Fasting was sacred not just for the body but for the soul. Whole communities practiced cycles of cleansing, eating simple plant foods, drinking water, and allowing the body's natural intelligence to restore itself. These traditions existed long before modern science began to confirm the healing power of fasting. Across West Africa, healers preserved vast knowledge of plants and herbs. The Yoruba, the Akan, the Dogon, each carried a deep understanding of how the earth heals. Roots, leaves, and fruits were used not only as medicine, but as a way of keeping the whole being in harmony with the cosmos. This wisdom traveled across oceans during the darkest chapters of history, carried in memory and tradition by those who refused to forget. In the Caribbean, descendants of Africa kept the flame alive. The Maroons, escaped enslaved Africans, cultivated secret gardens in the mountains, preserving the knowledge of herbs and natural healing. Later, the Rastafari movement gave birth to what we know as ital living, food and life that is pure, plant-based, natural, and unprocessed. Ital was more than diet. It was resistance, it was healing. It was a declaration that true health could never be owned, sold, or manufactured. It had to remain close to the earth. But under colonial rule, indigenous and African traditions were silenced. Generations of healers were dismissed as primitive or superstitious. Meanwhile, European doctors and writers claimed the titles of founders and fathers of medicine. The truth is this: the oldest roots of healing were melanin-rich, and while they were hidden from history books, they were never lost. In Europe and America, centuries later, new voices began to rediscover what had already been known. Arnold Ehret spoke of fasting and the mucusless diet. Herbert Shelton taught natural hygiene, emphasizing rest, raw foods, and the body's self-healing power. Anne Wigmore grew wheatgrass and sprouts in her kitchen, showing the poor how to heal themselves with what nature provided. Norman Walker promoted juicing, longevity, and raw plant foods. These pioneers carried the torch in the West, but they were not originators. They were revivers, reawakening truths that had lived in Africa, the Caribbean, and indigenous lands for millennia. For a time, two streams flowed side by side. In the West, reformers wrote books, opened institutes, and lectured to growing audiences. Meanwhile, indigenous and African traditions continued quietly, in kitchens, in villages, in hidden spaces. One stream had visibility and recognition. The other carried ancient memory and authenticity. But both were guided by the same current: the truth that healing comes from fasting, from plants, from nature, and from simplicity. The lineage of natural healing belongs to no single race, no single nation. It begins with Imhotep in Kemet, flows through Ethiopia and West Africa, through the Maroons and ital living in the Caribbean, and re-emerges through the revivers of the West. Together they remind us of one eternal truth: healing does not come from profit, complexity, or control. It comes from living simply, eating close to the earth, and walking in balance with life. This is the true lineage of natural healing. One story, one humanity, one truth.